The latest on Tropical Depression Fred, very difficult to find. It was kind of the last few images from the visible satellite is kind of what the Hurricane Center is using to determine where the center is, because it is very difficult to find. And right now it is estimated basically to be now over Haiti. However, most of the strong storms are nowhere near the center. It is struggling, and not only because of the mountainous terrain, wind shear and dry air are also plaguing the storm, and that will likely continue, certainly going into tomorrow, but possibly even beyond tomorrow and into early Saturday, kind of keeping it as a weaker storm. Great news for the folks in Cuba, as well as if any of that rain is actually able to make it to the northern side in the Turks and Caicos and maybe southern Bahama Islands. As it moves farther away from the coast of Cuba, we may start to see it redeveloping back into a tropical storm, and then we are likely going to see a tropical storm as it moves into the eastern Gulf. Now, earlier models, this is going back to yesterday, did have the potential of maybe it becoming a low-end Category 1 hurricane. A lot of the models have started to back off on that intensity. The track model has not really changed all that much, at least the consensus of the models. Now, there are a few outliers, and yes, before you start getting worried, yeah, there's one little outlier way off to the west. The Hurricane Center actually admits this is the H-WRF. They're kind of throwing it out because it's not initializing well, and it's kind of keeping it as a very weak, ragged storm, which the Hurricane Center is thinking it's going to redevelop into a tropical storm. So when you take the consensus of those models, it falls basically within and almost right at the center of our margin of error. And that's basing what the Hurricane Center uses to determine their forecast, as well as other things. Again, the thinking is that this upper pattern is going to break down this ridge with an upper trough, allowing that storm to turn more toward the north. Of course, these forecasts are not perfect with the upper environment, but this has been a very consistent forecast for the last couple of days. Here's that wind shear we've been talking about. You can kind of see an upper low approaching Florida right now. There's been an upper low that's moving into the southern Gulf, but dry air and wind shear really plaguing the storm. And that wind shear in these darker reds to purple colors are going to plague the center of the storm really until it moves into the Gulf. It'll have kind of a brief window of lighter wind shear, very warm waters, and we could see that intensity kind of ramp up a bit, but otherwise it doesn't look like this is just going to explode in strength. As we are watching Fred, there is another area of investigation, Invest 95. It has a low chance of doing anything over the next couple of days. 3 to 5 days. It's got a 60% chance of developing right now. A lot of the models not doing much with it at the moment, even though it's in a fairly hospitable environment for further developing. At the moment, none of the models are really buying into that. So we will watch that after we are done with Fred. Let's get through Fred. Again, 95 is still in an area where it's almost worth a mention, but just way too much time to know for certain.